That's crazy.
Dude, I don't use them. I still use Skype. I'm old fashioned.
Dude, that is so old fashioned of you. Skype.
Yeah,
I get on some Skype every now and then. It's my my VA over the Philippines. That's what we used to talk on. So, well, cool,
yeah, that's when I
man.
use it. That's like what they're comfortable with. So
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll just go ahead and dive in. Before we start, how do you say your last name? Is it Jost?
Jost.
Jost. Okay. Since
Yeah.
we started talking, I've been wondering if it's Jost or Jost. So Jost, J O. Okay, Jost. Okay, perfect. So I have, like I was telling you, I'm probably pretty terrible at interviewing. So we're just gonna just talk, just kind of hang out. And two, what I think, we're just gonna like record and just talk, and then if we cut something out of it, great. If not, either way is good. But either way, I think you've got some cool stuff. So you ready to get started?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how good I am at giving interviews. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. But let's dive in, man.
We'll just have fun, dude. Screw having it polished. We'll just have fun and just talk person to person. And if someone listens along at some point in the future, cool.
Cool.
Awesome, man. So Caleb, let's see. How do I want to do this? I'm trying to think if I want to like introduce you. You know what? If I want to introduce you, I'll introduce you like in a segment. I'll record on my own, and then we'll do your
Right.
stuff. So let's go ahead and man, I want to just dive in. So Caleb, tell me a little bit about Parrot Digital Marketing and kind of what some of the service are that you do, and really just who is it that you really help?
Yeah, so we provide digital marketing services to a variety of businesses around Texas, primarily in Austin. So digital marketing services for us is primarily web design, Google ads, Facebook ads, and a few different kind of ancillary services, right? But those are
Cool.
the three main things that we do for people.
Gotcha.
So
Perfect, man.
yeah.
Yes, perfect. And so I'm curious, man, how did I love the stories of how people actually become business owners. So what was that journey for you from going from figuring out that hey, you could advertise using something called the internet to where you're at today? How did that all get started?
Well, you want the long version or the short version?
Let's go to the medium version.
Medium version. Basically, after I graduated college, I got a corporate job, and I wasn't really into the big corporate thing.
Yeah.
I was looking around for something that felt a little more, person to person, more authentic. And a friend of mine hired me on with a company she'd started, and we did well. We grew the company. It was a property management company, so they
Oh wow.
owned and managed a collection of apartment complexes in the Midwest. And so we grew the company, but it was a contract position. Basically, she needed help for a set period of time, hiring people and setting up, payroll and an HR system and all this kind of stuff. So I enjoyed doing that because it felt very personal. I got to spend a lot of time one-on-one with people in the communities that those apartment complexes were in. But I knew it was ending, and I knew I didn't want to go back to some kind of big corporate job, right, where I had to go to a cubicle every day and be told what to do by somebody who might not really know what they're talking about, right? So I decided I've always spent time on the computer, and I was familiar with computers. I played around with some programming throughout college. And so I decided to kind of brush up on some of my skills, take some courses online. I
Mm-hmm.
learned how to do web design. So I started freelancing web design, and I mostly got clients through personal networking, going to networking events in Austin. I applied to contract jobs and different one-off jobs on places like Indeed and Upwork, but pretty much just wherever I could find people to pay me to do this stuff
Yeah.
without having a boss, right? But I pretty quickly figured out that web design is really just one aspect of digital marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I became more interested in the field as a whole and how web design fit into that and how I could offer more value to my customers. So, some of my clients started asking me, can you run my Instagram for me? Or can you do this for me? Can you send out emails for me? Right. And so it just kind of pretty organically rolled into offering more services. Got to learn um, a lot of different technologies and a lot of different industries.
Yeah, I bet.
And so it's been like a year and a half now, and here we are. We're doing all right.
Love it, man. Love it, dude. It's so funny. It's like that. There's two things. One is how just the desire to just like live on your own terms, right? I mean that dictates. Most of the people that I work with and that I talk to and I don't for a long time I thought it was like our generation, like the millennials or whatever you want to call us. But I think it's everybody. I think the difference is that we see how possible it is, right? And how
Mm-hmm.
we can just get clients and do good work and do it from wherever we want and kind of go from there. So yeah, that's I know you and I are a little unique in the fact that we went through the tax planning together. We're getting ready for filing and everything, and so through that I've got to kind of really get to know you, which is the part I like too. And it's cool just to see how similar we really are in terms of, man, we just want our time and our freedom, and we'll work hard and we'll put in the hours, but yeah, that freedom's so important.
Yeah, I think everybody, whether they realize it or not, is optimizing their lives and especially their careers for certain things, right? And you can certainly do everything you can to optimize to have the most prestige possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or the most money possible. And if you want those things, maybe you try to become a lawyer or you try to go into, pharmaceutical sales or something like that, right? I think for people who are interested in freedom in as many ways as possible, in all the ways that can mean, and people who want autonomy and independence as well, entrepreneurship, owning your own business seems very natural. And you're right that I think everybody, not maybe not everybody, but many people across generations want these things, right? We're probably one of the first adult generations that has easy access to so many tools and resources that allow us to learn how to do this for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's right,
yeah, it's
man.
been
The
great.
the um, the gig economy, right? It's I was reading where was it a few weeks ago talking about the gig economy, but I was reading another article that was talking about how everything that happened in '08 and kind of that meltdown made it to where people are like, man, maybe I don't want this big house, or maybe this big corporate job isn't what I want. Maybe I just want my time. And so it's amazing how those, here we are 12 years later, and now I think we're actually starting to really see the effects of it in the workforce, where everyone, we're flocking to this place where we can just kind of live on our own terms. So yeah, I love it. Cool, man. So I'm curious for you. Some people that are just kind of going to be checking this out or whatever, may know you or may know me, but a lot of people might not know either of us. And so I'm just kind of curious for you, you know, if we kind of met through LinkedIn or email or something like that, and ended up working together. And so I'm kind of curious, what was your experience, or like what was your feeling kind of with us working together? What were some of the things that you really liked and kind of helped you, and how did they help you?
In regards to our business relationship, so my
Yeah,
experience
just
with your
going through
company.
tax planning and kind of going through that process. So I know there was a little bit of a transformation. I remember when we were finishing up, you're like, man, this is how Donald Trump can do this, or these big guys can do all this, and it actually helps them. I remember that. It was cool.
Yeah, so all in all, for me, it was a great experience. As a business owner, you can't do everything. You can't know everything. It's really just not possible. One of the, I think, most important lessons I've learned since I've started my own business is how much you have to be willing to accept help and ask for help, and
Hmm.
seek out people who know more than you and are better at things than you, right? So leveraging other people's talents. So for me, I knew nothing about taxes, and if I'm being honest, I don't care to know anything about taxes, right?
Not many
But
people do,
I
yeah.
care. Yeah, but I care about how taxes affect my business, right? And affect the amount of money that's in my bank account, the amount of money that I earn, right? So you reached out to me through LinkedIn. It was LinkedIn, right?
I think so. Yeah, it's been a little
Or,
while.
yeah, I'm not I actually don't exactly remember. But my experience was fantastic. So I think one of the key things. So one, I ended up saving. You got me a lot more savings than I expected. So I think I was expecting to pay something like $10,000 in taxes. That's what I expected anyway. And after hiring you, we're looking at paying $2,000 to $4,000 in taxes this year. That's huge savings by itself. That's you know, we've talked a little bit about outsourcing and VAs and that kind of thing. $5,000 pays for a full-time employee in the Philippines for a year.
Wow.
So, you can do a lot with 40 extra hours a week of manpower, right? You can return a lot more than $5,000 even if you were shooting in the dark, right? You could do that. So that was great. But also, I think one of the value adds that I got from it was thinking more along the lines of a business owner, right? Thinking less as an employee, as somebody who's trading my time and energy for money, and more as somebody who's kind of building the system that generates money for myself, right? And so if if our actions and the things that we have in our life come from our minds first, then changes in mindset are going to be the most valuable things that you can gain, as long as they're positive.
Dude, that's it. I don't know if that was a quote from somebody, but if it's not, it better be that. That's so true, man. It is. You're so right. And that's what it takes. It takes. We got to go through the nitty gritty of the tax plan and finding the savings. But you're right. The value that I give people is not. It's not just the 5,000 in savings or whatever it is. So you can hire a VA in the Philippines so you can only work maybe 10 hours in your business instead of 40. Right. That's valuable. But it's like, man, if we can change the mindset, right? Because I mean, we're going to be in business. You and I are going to be in business for the next 30, 40 years. So, and so if we can think about how we handle our finances and money differently, that's the power. And the 10,000 in savings, that's just a bonus. And so, yeah, man, I love it.
Right.
Cool. And if someone were kind of listening to this right now, and maybe just they wanted to do it, but like you had some reservations, like, oh, I just met this guy, some of those things, like if kind of thinking back to where you were at before you really kind of made that decision, what would you tell somebody that's kind of on the fence?
Yeah, so I totally get where they'd be coming from, because it is a fair amount of money for um, something that you can't really touch or anything, right? So for me, it really came down to a very simple math equation, right? The money I paid you was much less than the amount of money that you saved me. So if you can save me more than I pay you, then I come out ahead, as opposed to what I would be doing by myself. So it's really that simple. So yeah, it doesn't really have to go further than that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's it, man. Simple math. Right. And the great thing is the way we set everything up, you just pay it once. And then next year you get that savings. There's no tax, I've worked a long time to design something that would do that. And we're still tweaking it, but we've got it mostly built. So cool, man. So, and my favorite part about working together was you were not in Austin, Texas, where you live right now. You were maybe somewhere else. So yeah, fill us in on kind of where you were at and where you were living, and tell us that story a little bit.
Yeah. So one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to start my own company is that I wanted to find a way to achieve total location independence, right? So you hear about this in books all the time, like the 4-Hour Work Week is probably the most famous one that talks about it. But basically, I wanted to start a business that would pay me a good living to live wherever I wanted. And so I achieved that with this business, which has been fantastic. And so when we were actually going through the tax planning, strategy and doing all the actual work, I was in Medellin, Colombia, which if you ever get a chance to go there, it's fantastic. I had a great time. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people, ton of fun. You can go salsa dancing, go see jungles, mountains. Um, it's for uh, for somebody who's willing to get out of the little kind of first world bubble. It's completely worth it.
Cool. Heck yeah, man. So, you know, and a lot of us say we want to travel or say we want to do that, right? Where we can just like, it's the laptop lifestyle, you know, people put it like that or whatever. Where, because I mean, when you're over there, like you were living in like maybe an Airbnb or something like that, or a little apartment.
Yeah, I really enjoyed where I stayed. I think maybe some people wouldn't, but I stayed in basically what we called an adult hostel. So it was like I think 7 or 8 bedrooms
Mm-hmm.
in this kind of so it was like the whole floor of this building, and everybody was digital nomad, right, of some sort, right. So there were copywriters, there was a journalist for the New York Times that was staying there. There was a supermodel. she who from she's American, but she had done modeling in Russia and China and in
Wow.
Canada, all over the place. There was tech entrepreneurs, very wide range of very interesting people,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, I was going to was dead center in the city of the or in the center of the city. So yeah, it was a very cool place. What was the question again? I think I got off
Yeah,
track.
I don't know. No, you said the supermodel, and I got sidetracked. No, yeah. Yeah, I was just curious. So with that experience, kind of because what was so cool about like when we connected, whether we're going to do business together or not, it was just so cool because everything I've like read about or like seen on Instagram or this, like you were doing it like while we were talking, and so it was really cool. So
Yeah, I got that.
what was your favorite part about that? Like, what was like your favorite part of kind of that experience?
Well, my favorite part. That's an interesting question. So, I mean, we're both from Texas. Actually, I always wanted to learn Spanish, so I really enjoy
Mm,
being immersed in a Spanish-speaking environment. Um, but I think what I wanted to mention actually earlier, like 2 questions ago or whatever, was that it's not, life is not an Instagram highlight reel,
mm,
right? It was great being in Colombia, but I still worked essentially full time, right? I still went into, rented a co-working space, still worked every day, still had to deal with clients who maybe were, demanding too much or whatever, right? It's not like it was a dream. I lived a day-to-day life, still had to do my laundry, right?
mm. Go grocery
Uh,
shopping.
and so I think, yeah, go grocery shopping. So I think what happens basically is that you get to live this life that's very, very kind of still normal and mundane, Monday to Friday, right? If you have that kind of job. Some people have some kind of system
Hmm.
set up that's printing money and they work literally an hour a week, right? So I'm not at that point,
Yeah,
right? But
one
I still
day
have to work
we're on our way.
one day, one day. That's right. But so I still had to work, right? So what happens though, yeah, is you have a normal life Monday to Friday, and in the
Hmm.
weekends though, you get to have kind of the world open up to you, right? So like one weekend, maybe we spent the whole weekend salsa dancing, right? And then another weekend we're in the mountains of Colombia on coffee plantations, right?
Wow.
Another weekend you fly to the coast of Colombia and see these old colonial towns and go to the beach, right?
Yeah.
So it and it's so affordable
Hmm.
too, right? So none of that stuff really is pricey.
Incredible,
So
man. Yeah.
just being prepared for you're not traveling, you're still working, right? But
Hmm.
you kind of get to travel on the weekends.
Yeah,
Just being
that makes
prepared for that, I
sense.
think, is important.
That makes sense. And I think I'm curious. I want to get your thoughts on this, but for a long time I've kind of hypothesized, I guess is a good way to put it, but I've just kind of thought like everyone wants to go move, you know, Texas, everyone wants to move like to Colorado or somewhere where it's not so damn hot all the time. And or you know,
Mm-hmm.
overseas or wherever. And I've always, and it maybe a mentor told me this one time, but this idea of, hey, like just because you move, like your problems follow you. Like the stuff like, you know, because I think people get in this mindset of, like you said, this Instagram, like where it's just like, oh, we're on the beach every day and doing this and doing that. But it just doesn't sound like that's reality.
No, your problems follow you in some ways. Definitely your personal problems follow
Yeah.
you, right? So if you're kind of, just to be frank, if you're kind of an asshole and nobody really likes you, you're still going to be that guy in Colombia or Kazakhstan or wherever you end up, right? And if you have mental health issues,
Hmm.
honestly, I think that if you have any kind of mental health issue, you need to be very careful about this because it's inherently a very solo, self-isolating activity, right? You show up in a country, right, and you probably know nobody, or like one person, right? And so if you're an introverted person, you're gonna have a really hard time, I think, making friends. If you have mental health issues, you have no kind of
Support.
social support system,
Yeah.
right? So it's not easy. You're not on vacation,
Hmm.
especially because a lot of people do this kind of for longer periods of time, right? It's not like you're for a week and then you go back home and see your boyfriend or girlfriend or your mom or whatever.
Yeah.
No, you're there for a long time, most likely.
Right.
That's really the only way to do this in any kind of affordable manner.
Mhm.
And productive manner. If you jump around every few days, then I guarantee you're not going to be productive because you have to set up your life every few days, right? So
So,
uh,
so that's why it worked well
yeah,
for you. You think just to kind of have like a home base, and then from that, because that was you could really travel a lot of different places from, like, you were pretty central for the country, right?
yeah, yeah. I think the most effective thing would be to find. Well, this is my own opinion. This is what I did, but it worked for me. It would be to find some kind of more social housing. So whether that's renting a room in an
Mm.
Airbnb from somebody who lives there, or doing kind of the adult hostel kind of thing, like what
Yeah.
I did, or something like that, where you basically have a built-in social life already.
Hmm.
That was very
Interesting.
helpful. Going to a co-working space was very helpful because one, it gets you out of the house, but also in places like Medellin or any kind of hotspot like that, there's going
Hmm.
to be a lot of other people in the same boat who are willing to make friends and who are probably from maybe not your country, but an English-speaking country, right? Or they speak great English.
Hmm.
So there's that. Um, but just being aware that those problems, not those problems, but those challenges are there, and having strategies to face them is very important.
Cool. Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah. Yeah, and I may not have shared this when we were kind of talking, but yeah, kind of anticipating some of those challenges. So one of the things my wife and I did, freedom is big for us, right? And so, but so we got married. We were pretty young, and I was studying for law school, and we were married for 10 months, and we found out she was pregnant. So like, well, there goes law school, right? And so my son, we just
Mm-hmm.
had dinner tonight, and he's 3.5, like running around, like pulling my dog's tail and like getting into all kinds of stuff. But one of the decisions we made was we actually kind of, you've seen the tiny house movement and all that stuff. We bought a big house and did all this stuff, and we actually over the last like 2 years made it to where we kind of have basically a little tiny house. Like we rent out the big side of it, and we kind of I basically converted it, spent 40 grand to convert it into a duplex, essentially, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what's incredible about now the tenants pay the mortgage, pay our bills. We make $600 a month on it, and we live there for free, right? Which sounds great. My family thought I was crazy. Her family was like, "Oh, y'all have this great, 4-bedroom house. Like, what are y'all doing?" But it was because of freedom, right? We wanted freedom because we knew, hey, if we do want to move to Colorado for the summer for a year, that we can rent both units, and that basically pays all our bills. And after that, we just got to make enough money to feed ourselves. And so that was kind of but there were so many things that we just didn't anticipate, right? So like going to a smaller space, we knew that, okay, we're going to have to get rid of a lot of stuff and all of that. But there was a lot of the other factors that, like I've noticed, we don't spend near as much like quality time in the house anymore because it's such a small space. Like we go out and do a lot of stuff, but like a lot of times with me and her and my son there, it feels kind of cramped, right? And so you're so right. We experience the same thing of, you kind of have to have some of those things that pop up and just have awareness of them. Because yeah, they can turn they can kind of turn for the worst quick, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a it's a great idea though. There's a lot of people here in Austin who are into the whole tiny house thing. Actually, I'm going over to a friend's on Saturday who built his own tiny house, like
On wheels.
On wheels, yeah, on a trailer frame. So
Cool.
it's going to be cool. But yeah, I think that's a very common thing for maybe all Americans, certainly our generation, right? This trend towards downsizing and minimalism and that kind of thing. And there's certainly cons to it that people probably don't expect, right? Like what you're
Yeah.
saying, you feel like you don't have as much quality time at home with your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody thinks that when you're like, I'm going to build a tiny home. It sounds like, oh, we're going to be so close together. We're just going to have so much quality time, right?
Yeah.
So I understand where you're coming from. There's definitely a lot of benefits too, though, right? So I don't have a tiny home, but I'm fairly minimalistic in that I have very few actual possessions, and the ones I do, I use and I value, right? So having the ability for me, so I when I was in Colombia, all I had was 2 carry-ons, right? So I had my main travel backpack and a backpack with all of my work gear, right? Laptop and camera and that kind of stuff. That was hugely valuable to me. It made me so mobile, so flexible, so easy to pursue opportunities and go where I wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's freeing, but freedom's not always comfortable.
Well said. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The most free place you can be is like falling from an airplane. Like that's the most free you can ever be, right?
Right. But it's kind of
And the
hard.
most secure place you could ever be, well, in some ways, I guess, is behind, like in jail. Like that's the most like security, you know, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
There's always this when before I was really focused on the tax business, when I was doing more kind of consulting and coaching, everyone always wanted freedom, but they also wanted like certainty. Well, those things don't always coexist, right? I mean,
Right.
you leave a job, right? You give up freedom, or you give up certainty for freedom, or you go back to your job. You give up your freedom for certainty, and it's just kind of, I don't know, maybe it's just kind of depending on the person or like kind of where you want to live and circumstances, kind of where you fall in that. But yeah, it does seem like a kind of a sliding scale a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like we talked about at the beginning, you know, everybody really optimizes and pursues different things,
Mm-hmm.
whether they mean to or not, right? It's hard to have everything, but I think you can have what you want, but you have to choose what you want. You have to commit to the desire for something, right? You can totally have incredible job security, right? If you want, but you might have to make sacrifices, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can go travel the world, you know, live in all these incredible places, have the coolest Instagram out of all your friends, but there's going to be real sacrifices, right? You're not going to have a steady social circle, dating, and long-term relationships. It's going to be hard. Not going to have any possessions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pursuing like uncommon lifestyles, pursuing dreams takes sacrifice.
Well said, man. Well said. Well, dude, we're gonna kind of wrap everything up because that just ties a perfect bow on it. But so if someone, you know, I know you do a lot in the digital marketing space. So if someone wants to get a hold of you or needs some help or just wants to kind of touch base with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so you can check out my website, my company's website at parrotdm.com. That's like parrot like a bird. So my company's name is Parrot Digital Marketing, right? So parrotdm.com. From there, there's a live chat that you can contact me directly on my cell phone number. You can fill out the contact form and it'll go to our email. You can email me at caleb@parrotdm.com.
Perfect.
But
Okay.
whichever way you want, I'm always happy to talk to anybody.
Perfect. All right. Lots of ways to get a hold of you, and I'll have links to all that stuff in the description as well, so they can find it easier there. So, man, Caleb, this is so cool. Thank you. It's not every day that someone our age that has actually gone and done some of these cool things. So it's been great to work together, and you know we're still kind of early in the filing season, so we'll get everything wrapped up there. But man, I really appreciate